Well. Welcome back to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. We're talking about waiver wires going into week 7. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Can you believe we're already 1/3 through the fantasy football NFL season? It's absolutely wild. And listen, it's been a little bit crazy. And going into next week is going to be even crazier because, yes, bye weeks have started, but we have some pretty impactful, let's call it, fantasy football teams on bye next week. We're going to talk about it, how you're going to get through the bye weeks, and it's going to be challenging, man. It's going to be very, very challenging simply because right now there definitely isn't the sizzle that we saw in the waiver wire last week. And oh my God, like, can we just, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kenneth Walker show. That's what this should be. This should just be a celebration show about Ken Walker. It wasn't looking good. So let me just say, for those of you out there that are doubters, for some of these rookies who have yet to break out, some of the guys that you might have been higher on in the offseason, just be patient. Give these guys some time. But let's just talk about some of the brass tacks going into week 7. Let's talk about the teams on bye weeks. Okay, Buffalo Bills. Yes, those Buffalo Bills are going to be on bye this week. The Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, that's going to be a problem. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're also going to be on a bye. And of course, the Los Angeles Rams. So I will say some of the players we're going to be talking about on today's show are on bye this week. So when I get to those players, I'll mention and remind you they're on bye. But it's worth noting that sometimes these players are worth getting because they may be rostered, but they may have been dropped as people try to manage their bye weeks and their injuries. So speaking of injuries, James Conner still didn't play. Benjamin got banged up, but it sounds like he's going to be back for next week. So there's not really an opportunity there. Dalton Schultz, once again, was a late ad. I don't know if he burned you guys, but he definitely burned me in one of my leagues, and it ended up costing me the week. So thank you, Dalton Schultz, and thank you, Dallas Cowboys, for letting us know. It was on Saturday. He apparently retweaked his ankle, which they don't have to report that because final injury reports are out on Friday. And so then he was a scratch. So that kind of sucked. J.K. Dobbins, he missed a part of the game because of tightness in the same leg where he had the ACL surgery. So we'll talk about that impact. Marquise Hollywood Brown. Okay, this looked bad. When we first heard the news, and I should say I'm recording this on the evening of Monday, October 17th. As we speak, the Monday night game is going on. I don't know what's happening in that game. It's Denver versus the Chargers. I have no idea what's happening, but yeah. Anyways, Marquise Brown is only going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, it looks like, or upwards of 6 weeks. So it wasn't as bad as what we initially thought of the season-ending injury. Of course, the Cardinals went on and got Robbie Anderson today. Randall Cobb injured, had the ankle injury. Honestly, not really a huge impact for fantasy football, but he was getting targets from Aaron Rodgers because he's old, he's curmudgeonly, and he likes his players. So Randall Cobb, he's going to be missing some time. Kenny Pickett. Yes, the rookie Kenny Pickett. He got knocked out of the game because of a concussion. We don't know if Mitchell Trubisky is going to start next week, but we've seen it already that the NFL is taking extra precaution after that whole debacle with Tua Tagovailoa. I wouldn't be surprised if Kenny Pickett misses next week. And then, oh man, scary injury from Cameron Brate. Had to be taken off the field in a stretcher. It sounds like it's not as bad. The x-rays came back negative. It was neck, but we're going to talk about those implications as well. So those are the major hitters for the injuries this week. And as we'll go through with some of these players, as we talk about the different positions, again, there's no sizzle to top. So most of these players are going to be bench stashes or 1 week starter type players. But let's just get into it. Let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about the running back position. So the guy at the top of my list, and I don't take any comfort in saying this, but Kenyon Drake of the Baltimore Ravens, he's 8% rostered. I'm going to suggest 3% of your fab. Okay, 3% for my top running back ad. That just tells you a little, all you need to know about this week. But 58% of carries after J.K. Dobbins left. And listen, I get the feeling, and what it sounds like is they're just going to try to ease J.K. Dobbins into a full role. I'm very curious to see. I mean, because we know how the NFL season goes, right? No player actually heals through the NFL season. So I'm very curious to see if it's just a full-on timeshare and you can't start any of these players, but we chase the fantasy points, and Kenyon Drake has an opportunity in they're a good offense. They just can't hold on to a lead type offense, but Kenyon Drake, 3%, not a lot of sizzle. If you want a little bit more sizzle, every single week I'm going to be talking about Rachaad White. He's still only owned or managed, in 48% of leagues. Again, 3%, a couple bucks on your fab. You need to be aware that Rachaad White he's a solid player, but he once again is not getting the usage. So I would say be cautious. Be cautious with Rachaad White. If you need to drop him for bye weeks, you can definitely do that until there's an injury, or if there's an injury to Leonard Fournette. Rachaad White's not going to have much usage, but be aware. Okay, another little rookie with some sizzle, James Cook. Okay, he had 0 sizzle this week. Zach Moss was a healthy scratch. We know this, and James Cook was active. Hey, hallelujah, right? We were super high on James Cook. I've been scolded on Twitter constantly for being so high on James Cook, but Devin Singletary still dominated touches with 86% of snaps. James Cook was right around 13-14%. He was an amazing college prospect. He was on Georgia. He won the national championship with them, but you get the vibe with the Buffalo Bills that it's a trust factor. Now, again, Buffalo's going to be on bye week, so it's interesting that they would play James Cook the week before the bye week. So just keep in mind, pound for pound, you talk about James Cook isn't going to be a workhorse, but when you look at the size and weight of Devin Singletary, they're almost identical between him and James Cook. The big difference is James Cook is significantly more athletic. So the Bills would be in a good interest to continue to give James Cook more usage so that in the event of a Devin Singletary injury, they're not going to be completely hooped at the running back position. They can plug and play James Cook, and I guarantee you, if that happens, James Cook is not going to relinquish the opportunity, and James Cook is going to be the lead back in that offense. He's a bench stash. It's going to be tough. I get it because it's bye weeks. Buffalo's on the bye, but if you can fit it in, great stash. Okay, Deion Jackson. Action Jackson. Okay. Obviously, with Jonathan Taylor in the mix, Deion Jackson's likely not going to be that startable. Okay. He's currently rostered in 51% of leagues. I would bet after this week, especially if news comes out that JT is indeed going to return, because it sounded like he was close to returning this week, which just, by the way, the fact that they played Thursday night last week was just such BS that he had a, quote, chance to play. He doesn't miss 2 weeks if he had a, quote, chance to play. So just remember this. Coaches lie. Anyways, I would bid a couple bucks on Deion Jackson. Now, again, we don't know his usage, but here's the thing. So this week, he looked very, very good. If you played him in DFS, congratulations. On the ground, he had 12 attempts, 42 yards, and a touchdown. But here's the thing. In your PPR leagues or your 0.5 PPR leagues, he went 10 for 10 for 79 yards through the air. If Nyheim Hines, which had a brutal concussion last week, continues to miss time, I would not be surprised if the Colts use Deion Jackson in the Nyheim Hines role, maybe even phase out Nyheim Hines. I don't know. Deion Jackson looks good. He looks good enough to play. So, I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have for the Colts because they have Jonathan Taylor, but maybe they use Jonathan Taylor into a little bit. Maybe they want to keep him healthy in the odd chance that the Colts could actually make a playoff run. Not say it's going to happen, but you got to think it's in the range of outcomes. So, a couple bucks, 1%, Deion Jackson. Jaylen Warren, once again, this is simply a bench stash. Najee Harris gets injured. Jaylen Warren is clearly the number 2 back, and he would probably be the starter. Well, he would be the starter in like a likely, 65, 35, 60-40 type role in the event that Najee Harris misses time. Kyren Williams. Okay, so this is very, very interesting. Now, the Rams, once again, as mentioned, are on bye this week. But Kyren Williams, who is the rookie that they drafted this year, remains available in 90% of leagues. Now, the thing about Kyren Williams is I was not really a big Kyren Williams enthusiast, let's call it, when he was in coming out of college. But he is a hyper efficient pass catching running back. And we know that running backs lead to, or catches lead to fantasy points. Now, Kyren Williams is best compared to James White. So just, everybody knows who James White is and what his style is. But picture James White. Now, in college in 2020, Kyren Williams went 35 receptions on 38 attempts for 313 yards in the air, and he had a 13.3% target share. In 2021, he caught 42 receptions on 49 attempts for 359 yards at a 10.8% target share. When we talk about running backs target share in college, we like to see around 8% and about 20 receptions. So Kyren Williams is a very capable back, and I don't know what's happening with Cam Akers. Clearly, he's not happy because he was a scratch this week. He was a healthy scratch due to, quote, personal reasons. But word on the street is that they're looking to trade him. They're taking phone calls, and that is going to open up opportunities for Kyren Williams. If you have space on your bench, go see if you can get him. Okay, moving on. Gus Edwards. Yes, Gus Edwards. Okay, so at the top of the show, I talked about Kenyon Drake. If you just cannot stomach the fact that you want to go and pick up Kenyon Drake off the waiver wire, Gus Edwards is only rostered in 23% of leagues. Again, a buck or two. Now, apparently Gus was close to returning this week, which means that maybe they will activate him off of IR as early as next week for week 7. Now, this could just be a full-on timeshare, but when Gus Edwards played, he was hyper efficient. So definitely worth a stash, especially in deeper leagues. And it's a speculative stash, but Gus Edwards, when he was healthy, definitely somebody worth going after. Now, in the news, there's been rumors that Christian McCaffrey is up for sale. Well, open for trade. And we just saw it with Robbie Anderson that the Panthers are willing to trade away some of their players, especially if they're unhappy. So I will say Deonta Foreman would come in as the lead back ahead of why is he Hubbard? There we go. Chuba Hubbard. My God. Sometimes you just blank out when these players don't do anything. But yeah, so Deonta Foreman is going to be playing ahead of Chuba Hubbard, who frankly has done nothing in his opportunity. When CMC was injured before, Chuba Hubbard was there and he did squat. Deonta Foreman came in. He looks explosive late last year, recovering from the Achilles. So it's going to be a timeshare 60-40, 55-45 type thing. But Deonta Foreman, get out ahead of it. If CMC gets traded, Deonta Foreman is going to be the top waiver wire ad. So get ahead of it. And then at the very bottom of the list here, DJ Dallas, 29% rostered. He did absolutely nothing last week. It's just like we expected. It was the Kenneth Walker show. But again, DJ Dallas, handcuff type situation. Don't get excited about it, but worth mentioning. Okay, let's talk about the wide receiver position. Okay, again, not a lot of sizzle to top here, but there are some interesting role players that you could take as wide receiver 3 type players. Top of my list, I have Wan'Dale Robinson, who's rostered in 20% of leagues, and I'm going to suggest upwards of 5% of your fab. So for those of you keeping track at home, Wan'Dale Robinson for your non-superflex leagues is going to be my number 1 waiver wire ad this week. Now, I will say he was only targeted on 14%, or he had a 14% target share on the game coming back from his knee injury, and he went 3 for 4. But he also had a rushing touchdown. Oh, no, excuse me. Yeah, he went 3 for 4 for 37 yards and the touchdown. Wan'Dale Robinson was one of my favorite prospects before the NFL draft. I kind of had him locked in as one of those round 3 type wide receivers that with upside. Obviously, the Giants took him at pick 211, which frankly was a little bit surprising. But when you look at his prospect profile, he is one of these, he can play deep. So he's got a 4.40 4.44 40-yard dash, which is an 81st percentile. First size, only 5'8", 179 pounds. So he's a shifty slot type wide receiver. He's honestly the Kadarius Toney replacement. Like Kadarius Toney, who is never healthy and also is hated by his coaching staff. That's who Wan'Dale Robinson's coming in to replace. He's going to be a solid wide receiver 3. Now, the New York Giants are going to operate through Saquon Barkley. That's not going to change. And I don't really see Daniel Jones passing a ton in the offense. That's not how the Giants are going to win games. But Wan'Dale Robinson could be a meaningful part of that offense. Solid wide receiver 3 and a viable flex play and in a flex consideration. Tyquan Thornton, New England Patriots rookie wide receiver. Again, Tyquan Thornton drafted by the Patriots at 2.18. Best comparable to another player we're going to be talking about shortly is Robbie Anderson. But Tyquan Thornton has a need for speed. Okay. He had a 4.28 40-yard dash, which was 100th percentile. He's quick. He's quick as hell. He's 6'2", 183 pounds. And we saw how the Patriots are going to want to deploy him. They're going to want to deploy him by stretching the field, but also they're going to want to deploy him in the rushing game. And we saw that, right? He went 4 for 5 for 37 yards and a touchdown, but he also had the one rushing touchdown. He played 57% of snaps this week, which was up from last week, which was 42%, and he did earn the 4 targets, which was a 14% target share. Now, the thing I like about Bailey Zappi in general is that he is very good, surprisingly, for a rookie. He's very proficient at distributing the ball. The problem is he doesn't have a deep ball. So Tyquan Thornton in a Bailey Zappi managed offense isn't going to have an opportunity really for those deep balls and those massive explosive plays. But Mac Jones, it looks like, is going to be back this week. And Mac Jones does have a pretty decent deep ball. So Tyquan Thornton, I'm going to say 4% of your fab budget. He's going to be a flex option every single week because we saw it this week that he's got that multiple touchdown upside. So Tyquan Thornton, he's got a little bit of sex appeal, but he's still in a Patriots offense. So 4%. Robbie Anderson. Okay, so Robbie Anderson was kicked out of the game yesterday in Carolina. And then very quickly this morning, we find out he was traded to Arizona. He's currently rostered in 80% of leagues, and I'm suggesting 3% fab. Now, the key thing here is that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be back next week, week 7. He's going to be back. Sorry, this week, week 7. He's going to be back. We saw that Rondale Moore is going to continue to play that slot, which means Robbie Anderson as a whole is going to be very boom or bust every single week, just like he was in Carolina. The difference is that Kyler Murray has a very, very good deep ball. Kyler Murray is one of the best deep ball passers in the league. Now, I don't know what's going on with the Arizona offense. They look off right now, and we haven't seen that explosive upside that we saw at the start of last season for really the first half of the season with Kyler Murray. But Robbie Anderson in that offense is going to be better than he was in Carolina. He's going to be the wide receiver 3 on that offense, which generally in fantasy football, it's very, very hard to bank on the wide receiver 3 unless it's like a Buffalo Bills type explosive offense and it's like the slot wide receiver in that offense. So Robbie Anderson, I'm not saying go below your budget, 3% fab, and that's it. If you don't get him, so be it. It's not worth crying over. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cleveland. He's rostered in 20% of leagues, and I'm going to say 1% of your fab. Okay, I know. We've been here. We've done this, okay? I think it was after week 1, so going into the week 2 waiver wires, Donovan Peoples-Jones was one of our favorites we wanted to pick up because we said, hey, listen, in week 1, he kind of exploded on the scene, which is what we thought his range of outcomes could have been. Since then, he really hasn't done much, but I will say he does get playing time. He's typically on in games between 85%, 90% of the snap share. He's averaging 6 targets a game. That is all you can ask for a wide receiver 3. And as we enter this bye week hell, because that's what we're getting into, sometimes you have to roster these types of players, plug your nose, and bet a couple bucks on Donovan Peoples-Jones. Okay, one of my favorite guys. Yes, actually, I would say this is a Mike Dickinson special, but Ben Skoranek of the LA Rams. Now, again, the Rams are on bye this week, but he's rostered in 6% of leagues. I'm going to suggest a $0 bid because nobody's going to be out there rostering Ben Skoranek. But he's basically playing the Allen Robinson type role. And yes, I know Allen Robinson got the touchdown this week. Congratulations if you actually had the guts to start him after his horrible start to the season. Ben Skowronek is the wide receiver 2 in that offense. Now, obviously, Cooper Kupp's going to continue to dominate the opportunity share. He's probably going to get between 30% to 35% of the targets every single week. We get it. But get Ben Skowronek, while he isn't exactly an athlete, is an excellent football player. Okay. He does everything well. He blocks. I mean, there's highlights of him on Twitter where you can go and see, like, people have cropped up these Ben Skowronek videos where it's just his ability to get off a block, tackle the defender, turn, and receive those passes from Matthew Stafford. So Ben Skowronek, just a solid football player. If you do want to roster one of these Rams, maybe you think that, okay, they're going into the bye week, they're going to get things figured out. I would be willing to bet money that Ben Skowronek has more fantasy points between now and the end of the season than Allen Robinson. So let that just settle in. Ben Skowronek, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I believe in him. Okay, let's move on to the quarterback position. Now, again, all three of these players I'm talking about from the perspective of Superflex, because for the most part, yes, it's bye weeks, but in your regular single quarterback leagues, you can go and roster, like, you can stream a player for 1 week. You don't really have to stress out about that. But in Superflex, as we all know, it's pretty much impossible to go and get a quarterback off the waiver wire. These guys are available and are worth considering. Okay, so number one, obviously, is going to be Taylor Heineke. Came out today that Carson Wentz is going to be missing between about 4 to 6 weeks. Could be put on IR. So Taylor Heineke, while he is not exactly an electric, high-level quarterback, and I'm not even necessarily confident he's going to be able to make all the wide receivers fantasy relevant. So that's worrisome for all of those players. But Taylor Heineke is able to get it done on his feet, and he's able to get those rush yards. So it's not going to be sexy. He's probably good for 14, 15 fantasy points a week. But bye weeks are here. If you have Carson Wentz on your team and he's now going to be on IR or he's going to be sitting on your bench, Taylor Heineke is a perfectly safe replacement. Listen, we saw the highs of Carson Wentz where he was getting you close to 35 points in 1 week, and then the lows where he was getting you 4 or 5 points. So is Taylor Heineke going to be really that much worse? I'm not really convinced. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you're in a Superflex league, depends on the context. If you're just trying to build up your depth and you don't need Taylor Heineke, maybe put 5 to 6%. But if you're desperate, like if you had Carson Wentz and maybe you've got a player on bye, maybe you were rocking Jalen Hurts, or maybe you were rocking Kirk Cousins, really any of these 4 quarterbacks this week, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, all on buys, Taylor Heineke is worth a 15 to 20%. And if you're desperate, 25 plus. Like, you can't F around without a quarterback in Superflex leagues, and you're going to get Heineke for a month. So he's going to be worth it. Mitchell Trubisky. Yes. We talked about Kenny Pickett was knocked out with a concussion, and Mitchell Trubisky came in. We know what Trubisky is. It's not sexy, but again, desperate times call for desperate measures. I'd be willing to bid upwards of 5% on Mitchell Trubisky if I was desperate for a quarterback. Okay. Last but not least, I'm just going to mention Bailey Zappi. Again, he's only rostered in 3% of leagues. I'm going to suggest maybe a buck or two, maybe $0 bid if you can, they allow that in your leagues. Mac Jones should be back, but if he's not, we've seen Bailey Zappi is competent as a backup quarterback. Frankly, I'm surprised. He's able to make these wide receivers relevant. So a couple bucks on Bailey Zappi if you need it. Okay, let's move on to the tight end position, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Robert Tonyan of those Green Bay Packers is still only rostered in 48% of leagues. Okay, I'm going to suggest a couple bucks, 2 to 3% of your fab budget on him. Through 6 weeks, he is the tight end 9 in your PPR leagues. He received 12 targets last week. He went 10 for 12 for 90 yards. In this era of the 2020s, frankly, like, there's always 2 or 3 legitimate tight ends, and there's everybody else. Robert Tonyan, again, if you have, I would say, as if you've got like the Dallas Goedert to TJ Hawkinson level, the next tier of player is going to be like the Pat Freiermuths of the world, the Taysom Hills of the world, the Robert Tonyans of the world. Tonyan is clearly in that 9 to 12 range, and he should be rostered. And if he's not, you should roster him. Cade Otton, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's only rostered in 10% of leagues. Again, a buck. Cameron Brate is going to miss some time. We don't know the severity. We don't really know the length of time yet. But when you have a neck injury, that's not something you want to mess with. And I could see him missing at least a few weeks. So Cade Otton, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's good for 7 to 8 points. It's not sexy, but woof. Cade Otton. I feel dirty just talking about him, but he's a viable option. Mike Gesicki, if he's available, he is only rostered in 42% of leagues because before this week he did absolutely squat. And Tua Tagovailoa is coming back this week, or we expect him to anyways. We saw Skylar Thompson was knocked out, so Teddy Bridgewater came back in the game. Mike Gesicki had his best game in the season, of course. Never fails, right? He got in the box twice. So it's boom or bust, but just like any of these other tight ends, it all depends on your options. If you were rostering Dawson Knox, if you were rostering Dallas Goedert, that's when you need to go out and get a Mike Gesicki on your team. So go out. I'd spend a couple bucks. I would actually probably take Mike Gesicki over Cade Otton. Oh, actually, I definitely would, simply because I trust the player a little bit more, but I also trust the Bucs offense a little bit more. So it's tough. It's tough. It's just we've seen Mike Gesicki do it. We haven't really seen Cade Otton do it yet. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all for the show. So before we go, if you have not signed up to become a VIP member, I implore you to do so. Follow us on Twitter at DFS Army, and you can see how every single week, every single slate, every single showdown, we have members cashing and showing the proof. The proof's in the pudding. People are winning thousands of dollars. So if you're a little bit reluctant to dip your toes in that DFS Army water right now, you're really into season-long fantasy football. We have an offer on the DFS Army website. So you go to dfsarmy.com/free-offer. The link is going to be in the show description below. If you follow the instructions, which basically means you go to one of these sites, you do a deposit, which, hey, listen, if you're going to be doing DFS anyways for the first time, you're going to be doing a deposit. You might as well do that. Get yourself a free month on DFS Army. We're going to help you win money. We're going to help you pay for that membership and following memberships, and you're going to print money. So if you're tired of losing at DFS, or if you just new to DFS, go give it a try. dfsarmy.com/free offer. Of course, follow us on Twitter at DFS Army. You can follow me, Shane, at the Flex Network 1. We're going to be here all season. We're just getting started. And hey, hopefully week 7, just a few less injuries. Well, can we just get through 1 week without any major devastating injury to some of the players that we know and love? But hey, listen, that's the NFL. So, all right, good week and weeks. Good luck in week 7, everybody. We are the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. Peace.